Hi, this is Chris Jones with SaaSier.com. In this video, we're going to go over how to create quotations and purchase orders and purchase requisitions. So, most people are pretty familiar with how to generate a quotation and then confirm it to a purchase order, but we have in here an additional option called purchase requisitions, and I'm going to explain how that's all tied together. So, what I've typically done is kind of just the old school method, which is you come in, you create a quotation, you select your supplier, and then you're going to add in which items you want to order from the supplier, how much of it you want. Usually you don't know what the price is going to be, or maybe you have an established price and you want to confirm it. Right? If you've got an established price, you could put it in there. And then you could say send by email. This is going to do is convert this into a PDF file, and it's going to email it over, and I'll show you an example of one that's already been done. So in here, you can see that we actually sent this over. It sent an email from the system, and what it did is that you'll see inside of the notes field down here, you'll see the actual PDF. So I can click on that. I can click on it, and you can see that this is going to be the file it emails. We can close this. And what will happen though is if they reply to it, kind of the slick thing when you set this up correctly in the way you set up Open ERP with these catch-all email addresses, and I'll discuss that in another video. But what it will do is it's going to send it out, and when they hit reply, instead of it going to your email, it's going to go to the system's email. So for me, the email would go to, instead of chris.jones, for other business Animal Element, instead of it going to chris.jones@animalelement.com, it goes to chris.jones@erp.animalelement.com. So when it does that, the system is then going to be doing is watching all the email that comes in. And when it does, it's going to grab that email, it's going to see that it's associated with this record, and their reply is going to show up right in here, which is really nice for them to be able to send back those the pricing and have it directly show up in the system here. So and then what you can do when you say confirm an order, what that's going to do is that is going to convert it into a actual purchase order. From purchase order, we could do receive invoice, and at this point, it's in a draft invoice state. If we didn't let's say we had to adjust something. We ordered 50, they didn't have 50, they had 35, we need to adjust it. Let's say we have shipping that gets added on, but we didn't account for it. All these things, this is your chance to make that adjustment here. But I want to show you this purchase requisitions, because this is not every system has this option. What you can do here is this is when you can lump together a bunch of quotations into one single document. So I'll give you an example here. So let's say I wanted to do is I want to get some MSM. But I've got maybe a couple of different suppliers that carry it for me. Well, I may not want to do is, have in the system 10 different RFQs, and it's hard for me to remember that they're all tied together as part of a single thing I'm trying to do. So what I can do in here is I can go ahead and add in my product, how much I want, and then down here I can say request a quotation. From this point, this is when I want to go ahead and select my suppliers. Maybe I select this one. I say create quotation. It has now created a draft PO, basically just a quotation, and then I have the option to confirm it. Now I could also say I want to get it from somebody else. Maybe I want to get a price from these guys also, and I could say create quotation. And I can do this for however many I want in here. And then if I say send to suppliers, that's going to then do is that's going to turn around and email all of these at once. So instead of me creating, quotation 1, quotation 2, quotation 3, I'm really doing is just specifying my products one time. Now, before I found out about purchase requisitions, I would go into a quotation, and then I would say duplicate. What I would do is go in, create one quotation, say, okay, great, and then I would say duplicate, and then I would select the next supplier, and then once I realized that this purchase requisitions feature was here, it allowed me to do that all in kind of one shot. So from here, they're going to start replying back with the prices, and we're going to start getting prices back. And I can simply come in here and say confirm order. Or I could say send by email sort of one by one. So you'll see these are here, and I have my source document is this document I'm in. But if I come over to quotations, you'll see them all in here. But this way, when I have them tied together by source document, I can see all of the ones that are tied together. And then obviously I'm going to confirm, you know, one or maybe more of these. Let's go back and let's look at how this ties into, let's go into a purchase order. And obviously these things all flow. Everything flows from purchase orders into delivery, into supplier invoices. So we already looked at the invoice. Now there's another way we can get to that invoice. We could come into the purchase order and click receive invoice, or for your accounting department, it's probably easier to come in a lot of times and just go to supplier invoices. And if I go to supplier invoices, then I can get to it that way also. I can come in here, I can see this draft invoice, I can delete it if I want to, I can validate it, or I can edit it and make whatever changes, right? Like I had alluded to before, maybe we need to add shipping charges, put in my correct expense account, I can click on update. It's going to update the amount. I can click save, and then at this point I could go ahead and validate. Once I validate, we'll go ahead and validate it. Once I validate this one here, now I have the option to go ahead and click on pay. What we're going to be doing is, tying this in, and we'll actually probably update the video once we do. This is the piece that's going to get tied into the banking integration so that we don't end up with double payments. One of the options at this point when we click pay, if you turn the option on your account, is we're going to tie in to a service called lob.com, and they'll actually mail a physical checkout for you. Basically, you could think of this as bill pay without having to go log into Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whoever your bank is. What we would do is go ahead and initiate it from this spot. And then when we're downloading bank records, we're going to look for the matching bank record so that we don't end up with double payments on it. But in the meantime, if you come in here and you do use this option and you want to pay from your bank account and you go log into your bank separately, but you need to show that you've actually made the payment, then what you're going to need to do is when you download your bank statements, we'll simply need to do is make sure that we don't include, you want to delete this transaction out. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a double entry, right? If you pay it here, you're going to do is you're going to take it out of accounts payable. And then if you go into the bank account and do the same thing, you're going to end up with double expenses. So we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So right now, the trick is don't put it inside of your bank statement. And I'll cover that in an accounting video in more detail. Let's go back into purchasing. Let's go back to a particular PO. The other thing a PO is going to do, let's go ahead and go to, is it will also generate your incoming shipments. Now most of these are probably not showing up because we've already received the incoming shipment. So let's just go into warehouse and go to incoming shipments. So each PO, you'll see there's a source document is the PO because that's where it was created by. So we can go ahead and look down. This is a old record we can take a peek at. So what's happening here is this is where we have the incoming shipment. We can see what PO it was linked to. You can click on that PO and you can get directly back over to it. And you may have heard me say in a lot of these videos is these breadcrumb functionality. I can click here. You see where the mouse is. I can get back to the previous screen. I can get back to the previous screen. I don't want to use forward and backward. That's going to end up losing my place in these things. So again, if I go back into here, and then I could go ahead and click on receive. And you can also do is have separate stock journals. You can create however many stock journals you want to. Typically, you're going to have something like, you may create a separate stock journal for just incoming shipments. You may have a different one for delivery orders. You might have them all go into a single one. I think having them all go into a single one is just fine. And you can see there's different ones for internal moves. This is the place at which, if you're following GMP compliance, then what you want to be doing here for the nutritional supplement companies watching this is you want to make sure that we have a serial number in here. So what we can do is, if you can see, if you mouse over this, it says split in serial number. That's where we can go ahead and split it. And we'll go ahead and we'll go into more detail in another video on exactly how to handle these incoming shipments. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to receive it at this point. So this shows how your purchase orders, your purchase requisitions generate your request for quotations. You confirm those into purchase orders. That then generates supplier invoices. When you make your payments, it's going to create supplier payments. And it's also going to do is generate these incoming shipments. And once I receive the incoming shipment, then of course that stock, those serial numbers are all going to be checked into your inventory. And as I said in the reporting video before, you can create reports on any of these functions. If you want a report that is just on, you only want to see a report on shipping exception, invoice exceptions, waiting approval, those type of things. I can actually show you briefly on the approval process. If we go to settings, this is going to be for your admin account. You'll see here under configuration, I have an option over here called purchases. I can click on an option here which is force 2 levels of approvals. Oh, hit the wrong button when you click apply. And you can say a limit to require a second approval. Right? Maybe I don't need a second approval until it's at $5,000. So what's going to happen is once we come into our draft POs, if they're below a certain figure, depending upon my security level, I can confirm it. If it requires some approval, then we'll have to do is bump it up. And you can set, if we go into settings, users, this is where you can see, if I come in here to access rights, purchase requisition, am I a user or am I a manager? If I'm a manager, I can approve. If I'm a user, I'm not going to be able to approve things. And the last piece here, when we go into purchases and we go into products, this is where we can actually define what suppliers carry which products. So if I just go into just a random product in here, and I go into procurements and click on edit, this is where I can specify details on which suppliers carry which items. I can come in here, I can specify my supplier, I can mark if they're an active supplier, and I can go ahead and put in some things. So this is beta-alanine, right? Maybe maybe I need to specify something here if it's a 1-to-1 or something specifically, and I can go ahead and do that. Maybe I have a minimum order quantity. I can put in my lead time. These guys usually take 5 days. Instructions. Instructions could be use UPS account. I could just say create, and now it's going to save that, right? I want them to use my account number. I don't want to, I want to just have some instructions in there. That could also be in the PO, or maybe I put some other instruction in there relative to us. So we can go ahead and click on save. If we also come back in here to settings, you can see one more option here. You need to check off this purchase requisition. If you want this to be an option, to where you can use the requisition thing. This has to be set on a per product basis at this point right here. Cost price, this is just used when you're doing stock valuations. Okay, so that doesn't really apply to purchasing. So let's go back here and see if there's any more settings we want to cover inside of purchases. This is one here. Manage price list per supplier. Okay, we didn't have that turned on, but this might be something we want to use. So let's go ahead and turn that on. Okay, so now let's go back here to our product. We can go into purchases. We can go into products. We're going to go back into that bid element. We're going to come in here to procurements. Now you're going to see when I turned on that price list per supplier, now look what happened. We've got this in here now. So let's go ahead and put some stuff in here. Minimum's 50. We can start filling out some information. We can also say add, and what we want to do is we want to add it. So I'm going to say, okay, at 50, these guys charge $13. At 100, they're going to charge me $12.50. At 150, they're going to charge me $12, and you get the point. How we can begin to fill this. We can begin to fill this out on a per supplier basis. So that should be it. If you have any questions, one last thing. We also have our purchase unit of measure, which could be different than my actual unit of measure we use for stock. Some suppliers you have to buy in pounds. You may actually store it and track it in the system in kilogram. This gives you that option. If you want to come in here, select LB, go ahead and click on save. You can do that at that point. So if there's any more questions, feel free to email or call us. Thanks.